Welcome back to the Clarity Digital Podcast. I'm your host, Sefati. Today, I'm joined again by Mark Kelly, founder of Inbound Revenue. We're taking an honest look at agency life, the good, the bad, and the reality behind growing a sustainable marketing business. We'll talk about building processes, scaling challenges, lead generation, and the tough lessons learned along the way. Let's get into it. All right, let's go. Welcome back, Mark. How's it going?
It's going fantastically. Thank you for having me here. I'm going to drink some coffee and
I
get
know.
charged up for this conversation.
Me too. Yeah, I'm working from home today. A little bit under the weather, but I like doing this stuff. Thank you for your time. This is the second time you're coming to Clarity Digital Podcast. This is a new format I'm trying where I'm going live, and I do very little editing because I think that's a little more natural. And I think today we're going to be talking about agency life. But before we get to that, maybe you can introduce yourself again. Since we have a different format, that would be great.
Yes, sir. I am Mark Kelly. I own Inbound Revenue. We are a white label agency providing a number of tactical services to agencies like Google Ads, Facebook, local service ads, things of that nature. We've been doing this for 10 years. We've worked with a lot of agencies. And I started out, like when I say I started out as a guy with a laptop and a website. And then we went through a lot of iterations to grow into the agency, which is what I like to think of us now. And I know that was our topic of discussion today, contractors, agencies from every angle. So I figured I'd throw that out there.
Cool. That was a good and brief intro. Let's get into it. I got into the agency world totally by accident. I was always enjoyed having a full-time job and doing stuff on the side. And then I transitioned into being a contractor full-time, which is essentially working for someone else, but on a 1099 or corp to corp basis. And then something around COVID-ish was around that time where I had to transition into be an agency owner and rather than just contracting consulting. So I have been trying to figure it all out, not only from business development perspective, but also from operations and client management and tools and pretty much everything that's involved with the agency world. I find it to be quite fascinating, challenging, and sometimes a little bit annoying. Yeah, because I think the agency world it's as rewarding as it could be. It could also be sometimes like, what am I doing this? I could go get a job somewhere else, become a director or VP or CMO even, and get my check deposited into my bank account every 2 weeks and not worry about chasing invoices and stuff like that. So that's a little rant that I have. But let's just talk about you right now. Like, when did you get into the agency world? What made you get into the agency world? And the reason I said all the things I just said, how do you deal with that stuff? What are some of the processes, some of the solutions you have for some of the pain points that I just addressed?
Yeah, I'm going to go back a little bit and intro where I started. So I was IT before I was agency, but in early 2000s, I started an e-commerce business. I started doing Google Ads for that. That was a side thing. I was corporate IT at the time. I had been IT for years, and I was drawing a nice paycheck too. And then at some point, I was in a business that was on its way. The newspaper business was what I was working for, and it was clearly on its way out. So I stepped into consulting, did it around the wrong time, 2008. Economy crashed, if anyone recalls.
Mm-hmm.
And I apologize for my camera. I don't know why it's losing focus on me. I really promise you I am in focus. It'll come back.
All right, no worries. It's no big deal.
And I fumbled around for a while and tried to get back into IT positions, project management positions. And one day I just said, screw it. I got a fair number of marketing skills. I've been doing Google Ads I had already sold my e-commerce business, but I was doing Google Ads as a contractor for a few local businesses. So I just wrote up a resume that said I was a marketing person, went to work for a marketing agency. I found it was really easy to get jobs. They weren't the most high paying jobs, but it was really easy to get jobs in a bad economy in marketing. So I was the search engine marketing guy and started working in a couple agencies. And finally, I just decided to do it on my own the day they fired me. I launched Inbound Revenue. I had been planning to step into, I don't know if I was planning to step into the agency world. I was planning to step into being a independent marketing consultant. And one thing you know about marketing, because you've been in it for a while, is there's a lot of shiny stuff happening all over the place, and you're always distracted by it. So everybody else, I went several different directions until I finally settled into a name for the company, inbound revenue, your Clarity Digital,
Yeah.
and what our direction was going to be, that we're going to be white label for agencies. I can do the work, and it was essentially just me. I can do the work, the agencies can sell. Now, that was back when I thought agencies knew how to sell, but the agencies can sell and I can do the work and we'll all be happy. And it worked pretty well. Now, at some point, I made the decision to try to step up into being an agency. And that's a painful process, especially if you don't really know what that process is. There are some groups out there now and some coaches and things that will help you, like Seven Figure Agency, fairly expensive, but they'll give you a blueprint for that sort of thing. There were no blueprints at that time, 10 years ago. And so it's a real struggle. I would say a couple of things, and then I'll let you ask some questions because I don't want to just
No.
talk endlessly. One thing is, don't feel compelled to become an agency. There's advantages to contracting / consulting, even if you utilize a few skilled people to help you out. Number two, if you do decide to become an agency, really put together a plan and understand and have a process for it. Because the first thing that most of us do is say, I'm a Google Ads guy. I'm really busy with Google Ads. What would really help me is if I hired another Google Ads guy.
Yeah.
Or person, let's say. So you hire another Google Ads person, and then you just literally get busier because they're coming to you all day. So all the time that you already didn't have, you now have less of because you've got this other person. I would say the primary difference between consulting, contracting, and being an agency is you've got processes. Before you have a team, have processes, because you can't turn work over to someone unless you can tell them, this is how it's done. This is how we expect it to be done. Have something for project management, even if it's a spreadsheet, something that says this has to be done on Tuesday, customer needs it by Wednesday, blah, blah, blah. Put those processes together. And there's a ton of people on YouTube that can give you background on that. There's books you can buy. You can talk to people like Frankie Finn. You can Seven Figure Agency, Josh Nelson, or just use YouTube, but have a plan. I tried and failed 3 times to go from contractor to agency, and I would get so far, and then everything was collapsed. I'd lose some customers. The person I hired was really shitty. Oops, I forgot we're live and I'm not allowed to curse. The person that I hired wasn't up to the task, and I'm trying to still do everything because now I'm managing this person. Finally, I hit on having a part-time project manager, and that made all the difference in the world for me. She came in. She hated my project management software. She put her own in. I let her run with that. And then I started doing the thing that I do, which is it was Google Ads. Now it's more sales. Now it's more outreach. Now it's more marketing. But until you free yourself up, you can't really make that step into the agency world. But really decide if it's worth it, because then you're running a freaking business with people you're responsible for, and you're responsible for performance, you're responsible for client performance, and you're responsible for all the software that goes into it and everything else. I'm not even sure it's more profitable necessarily unless you scale it up to the $1 million range.
Yeah.
More profitable than being a consultant with a real sharp focus on what you do.
Yeah. Hey, everything you said, like it made a lot of sense. That's what I'm going through right now. My clients hired Al, like until 2020. My company was called Sefati Consulting, Sefati a company, and I had different DBAs, but they would hire Al because Al knew SEO and SEM and enterprise SEO because I worked corporate world a lot and I was certified and all those tools like Bright Edge and Conductor, whatever. And that was what I was going after. And what happened in 2020, some of my clients started asking me for more stuff that was a little bit beyond my expertise. Yes, I could run meta ads, but I was not a meta ads expert. And I had to start bringing people in, because, or else if I didn't do that, I would lose their business to someone else. And that happened to one of my clients. So my question for you is that, you know, how much how much of that is a factor in building a process? I know you guys focus at your agency a lot on Google ads and meta ads, and I think you also do some SEO work. But let's say if clients come and say, hey, do you do organic social, you do marketing automations or email marketing, as an agency owner, I feel compelled to say not to say no to them, and sometimes that kind of pulls us out of our comfort zone. How do you deal with that? Because the fear of, you don't want to lose a relationship that you work so hard to build, the client that took months, sometimes years to get. So it's easier to offer the service they're looking for rather than saying no, because you'll be risking losing them altogether. How do you go about that?
I think there's a couple ways to look at that. First of all, if you're just starting out, or your cash flow, you don't have a lot of clients, it's really hard to say no.
Yeah.
I think it's super important. I think the best skill you can have is to say no, or to say no until you're really ready to do it. Here's how I look at services. If someone came to me and said, can you do this? I would look at, what does it take me to offer that service repetitively to a variety of customers? Do I have enough people that might want that service to make it worth doing? And looking at it like a business, looking at it like we're Chick-fil-A. If you go to Chick-fil-A and said, can I have a roast beef sandwich? And they're like, no, we don't do roast beef sandwiches.
Yeah.
So are you going to lose that client? No, they're going to go somewhere else and get that roast beef sandwich. I understand the fear but it's easier when you've set up a course for your business and said, we do this and this. Now, what we've done over the years is expanded from Google ads to local service ads to Facebook ads. But every time we put something else out there, we think through, can we productize this?
Yeah.
And can we productize this? And do we have other people interested in it? And then what's the process? And build all that stuff out and then offer the service. It's much more. So if a client comes to me and asks, we did social media posts, for example, I'd say no. We build websites, but we build one very specific type of website based on high level. That's a business I don't even want to get into, because website development is so subjective. I've never seen a system that works really. I'm sure people have one. I've just never seen a system that works really good for that sort of thing. So yeah, we say no a lot, and it's hard when you want those dollars. What happens? You fall into something you don't know how to do. You spend 4 times as much money, time, and effort. The client's not as happy because you didn't really know what you were doing. You just said yes, and you took away from doing things you know how to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with most of that. One of the things I do, I think, okay, at our agencies, that I'm willing to pay the big bucks to hire the right staff, and we're not cheap. So that's one of the reasons we can't really work with really small moms and pops businesses, because I refuse to hire overseas help for strategic positions. Now, we do have overseas help for more tactical things, but for strategic stuff. And the way I've set up my agency is that I know a lot of it had to do with maintaining the proper relationships. I want my practitioners, my experts, to be client facing. Now, how much
Yeah,
client
we do that.
yeah, how much client facing? And that's because our audience, we work with a lot of CMOs and marketing, in-house marketing staff, not necessarily business owners, although we do have this as a client. But so the communication, those things are really important. Now, having said that, when we want to do something, we bring the right staff, and we usually start part-time subcontractors and we expand them to full-time eventually as we get more work. But I still think the whole process, they have to adapt to our way of doing things, to our process. And especially if they're subcontractors, they're probably juggling with different agencies. There's still a lot of inefficiencies in the whole hiring process, finding the right person. Obviously, sometimes it doesn't work out. Last year, I went through over half a dozen writers. Even though with ChatGPT and everything, there is less need for writers. We still need writers. until I found the right person or person. And so all that headache, I was just like, I wish I could avoid all that. And all that stuff I didn't have to deal with when I was a consultant contractor. And I miss those days because it was just me. And occasionally I would outsource something to somebody else, but I didn't have to worry about a lot of that. And now I have to worry about some of that. And I've been really, I think even I tried hiring you to help me productize some of the things we do, but it's been such a failure, like productizing things, because our clients come and they're all have different needs. Even let's say something as simple as SEO. Some of them need content, some of them need technical SEO, some of them need backlinks. And we have this product called digital PR, which is essentially link building, but with a in a PR manner, very organic, very white hat, nothing black hat or gray hat. So I'm still trying to figure out how I can productize. So if you have any feedback for us, because the type of clients we deal with, like right now we're about to send an a SOW about a client that just needs marketing assets. Basically it's all for the sales team, so it's like design stuff. So they want to take
Goes back to saying no sometimes, and then SEO. Let's say some need technical, some need writing, some need this. Just develop a process for each one of those things. Then you can plug in those pieces they need.
Yeah.
They need on page SEO. This is how we do it. Boom. And still saying no sometimes. Like we have the other recommendation I forgot that I wanted to make was get in touch with a lot of other marketing agency owners through groups, through Facebook. People will share a lot of information with you. Ed Stapleton, who owns ClickSkeek, was a great help to me throughout the years. And he'd say, why are they in the blank? Are you doing that, Mark? Do this. This is how we do it.
Yeah.
And I would say the most successful agencies systematize everything. And when you systematize, you can use overseas help. We use some overseas help. You can, and then you just have to know the parameters in which you can work. We don't take on large corporate clients usually because they want all kinds of things we don't do.
Yeah.
So I do think you have to take on clients that are in your wheelhouse. When you it feels so painful when you say no a few times, but what you find out is you get more opportunities to say yes, and it's less painful because you didn't have to relearn a bunch of stuff.
No, look, it's very empowering and it's actually very honest. I agree with you because right now we're dealing with a problematic client who backed down on a contract, 6 months contract, and I think one of the issues we had, and I'm being very honest, is that I think there was some language barrier between us and them. They're an Asian-owned company, and not Asian American, like just Asian out of Asia, who are having a manufacturing plant here. So they're trying to bypass some of those tariffs, and their understanding of us doing marketing with them was more like visual stuff, like video and ads, and like traditional ad agency. And we are a performance marketing agency. We do SEO, SEM, meta ads. We do create content, but like something of that scale, we can't hack it. You need to go film. They make a home battery storage, like Tesla has a Powerwall. They're a competitor to Tesla. And one of the misunderstanding was that they thought we're going to travel there, film everything, create cool ads. And I'm like, that's not who we are. And if you read your contract, you would have we were talking about SEO and SEM and Google Analytics and meta ads. So they had assumed that, we are going to do that and everything. And now I'm just beginning to think that being clear about who you are and what you offer and saying no to some of those customers just because you need the business, I think that would have saved me a lot of time, headache, and money, because I hired staff around it, we planned around it, and now they're not paying their invoice and
didn't make you any money though.
I don't even know. Yeah, I don't know. Like we're talking to our lawyer. We may or may not pursue it legally, but I'm just trying to choose my battles. We are pretty busy, so we don't need. So we're trying to evaluate our options. But I learned that from hardware. Like we can't be everything to everybody. So we're trying to narrow things down. But it's also very hard when you create that relationship months, years. I go to a lot of trade shows. I do a lot of networking. I write for Forbes and a bunch of other places, and then say no. It takes months, sometimes years, for you to get contact, to trust you, to want to work with you, and then you say no to them. That's something that I'm still trying to develop, because, but I get it. I want to do a good job for my customers, and I want my customers, my clients, to know what we are good at, and I don't want to repeat the mistake that was made about that particular client that I just told you. But let's talk about biz dev. Like, agency biz dev is probably one of the most difficult things ever. We run Google ads for our campaigns, but every time we run Google ads for ourselves, no matter how targeted the keywords and ad copies and landing pages are, we got nothing but irrelevant leads. So, like, how do you get leads for agency? And I know you do a lot of you create a lot of thought leadership content on YouTube. People should look you up, Mark Kelly, but from Inbound Revenue. But like, how else? What are the other ways that you guys generate leads for your agency?
For us, the most successful ways to generate leads have been very active on Facebook. I've not been successful on LinkedIn ever, and don't invest much in Twitter, even Facebook ads to a degree, and then YouTube content and emailing my mailing list. And even 10 years into this, I've really figured out finally who my damned audience is. And it's like you can't ever stop learning in this business. But those are the things that work for me. Now, I've tried direct mail, I've run Google ads, I've done YouTube ads. I'm not going to say that didn't work. I'm going to say maybe I didn't run them the right way. Maybe I didn't run them long enough. But the things that work for me, and referrals have mostly come from, hey, someone in a Facebook post is asking for this, and we recommend Mark Kelly. And then that's the type of thing. So Facebook, YouTube, email, and referrals have been things that have worked best for us so far. Every marketing agency has the exact same problem. Google Ads is a challenge for marketing agencies because it's terribly expensive.
Yeah, it is doable, because when I worked for another agency that was much bigger, we did run Google ads, and we did get clients out of it, or good leads at the very least, but it took a lot of money for us to get it. And because it is because marketers are trying to sell to marketers and business owners, that
Well,
actually,
this is an advantage niche agencies have, in that they're targeting one industry. So they can go to landscaping trade shows, they can join landscaping groups, they can become known in that. If you're an agency and we do everything for everyone, that's a really hard space to be in. And then you're competing with all those other people. But if you're in dental marketing, there's 20 people you're competing against, and you have one specific audience. We do white label. Our thing for years was white label Google ads. So we do Google ads, we serve agencies. That's
we are trying to narrow down too. Sorry to interrupt. We're trying to narrow down too. Like, I think that's something I came with realization. I can't be everything to everybody. So we don't sit on a website, but right now, because of my e-commerce background, just like you, how I got into business, owning e-commerce, a couple of e-commerce shops, and learning SEO and SEM, and then I sold one of them. We're not going niche into industry, but we are going to more e-commerce trade shows. So we know whether it's B2B or B2C. We still work with a lot of SaaS clients, local clients, but like, we're beginning to do that. I've been shying away from focusing on a very specific industry, like you mentioned, let's say dentists, lawyers, because I used to work for an agency called Productize. This is back in 2008 in San Diego, and it was a good agency. But most of the clients I had were real estate. So when 2008 happened, and these were like big real estate companies, or real estate development companies or whatnot, and 2008 happened, the agency took a huge hit. And what really saved them was a couple of non-real estate agents clients that they had. If I put all my eggs in one basket and all of a sudden something happens to that industry, like, for example, I'm very concerned about the legal industry right now. You can create a lot of lawyers. Unless you're litigation lawyers, you're going to be in trouble because of ChatGPT. You can create really good contracts in ChatGPT, and there are also tools coming out, custom GPTs coming out, that are even better than just a ChatGPT. And
here's how I would counter that, though. The skills that you develop in creating an agency focused on a niche are not limited to that niche. The skills you develop are in running the agency and selecting a niche and serving that niche. You can turn around and do that for an entirely different niche. Now, I will say,
Yeah.
COVID hit, which is hopefully a once in a lifetime experience. People that were serving certain industries in certain areas really got hit hard because everyone got sent home, or you couldn't cut hair, or you couldn't
Yeah.
go to restaurants. But that's a once in a lifetime type of thing, I hope, knock on wood. So I think there's more fear of niching into something than there should be. The other thing is, you can take whatever damn client you want and still be a niche agency. We're a white label client or a white label agency. We serve agencies, but I get referrals. Like
Yeah.
yesterday, I'm talking to a direct client that's a referral, and we still take those. We
Yeah.
could say no, presumably, but that's just not who we market to. But you don't lose all opportunities. And then I had
Yeah.
a guy this morning ask me for Facebook Advantage Plus shopping ads, not something I've ever done. So now we have to come back. So now that what I'll do instead of saying yes is I watch a few videos to see what's involved. I'm going to talk to my team to see whether we feel like this is something we should take on. Is it something we could do more of and scale up? Or is this something I'll say yes to and then not deliver well on and waste a bunch of time trying to figure out how to do something I don't know how to do? So we're going to decide that. But if we go to the client and say, this is something we're interested in, I'm also going to tell them, never done this in my life. I just think I'll do it better than you would. But I don't know. This is not a skill set. This is not a core competency, is what we always said when I worked in the defense industry. This is not one of our core competencies. So my guess is I can probably just do it better than the client. But I'll be honest and upfront about it. If we choose to do it, it's only because I value the client, something you talked about, and because it might be something that we could offer and scale.
Got it. Cool.
But
All
if
right.
it's for social media stuff or YouTube editing, I just say no. I have a guy that edits my videos, but I'm not in that business. I don't know anything about it. I would just refer them.
Yeah, we stopped doing social media, organic social media for clients. We've had, because a lot of that has to do with, there's a lot of, we can post stuff, scheduled to post 2 or 3 days a week. But I personally think like a successful social media campaign it needs to be like in-house. I think you need to have someone in-house to.
It's hard to know what to say if you
Yeah,
don't have.
it's hard to say what to say. Yeah, we can go in ChatGPT, we can go in SEMrush, figure out what to say. But you actually if you want real authentic stuff, you have to be inside. You got to be listening to customers. You got to be listening to, and we guide, as we have a social media expert. We've shifted, like, hey, we can guide you. We can work with you. If you need creative, we can create creative for you. We can create your roadmap or strategy. Well, we're not going to actually do it for you. We will do your meta ads just because that's more programmatic. But like organic social, it's something that we decided. That was the first no I said to a client, that we don't do that anymore. I'm sorry.
It's a smart thing to do. I
Yeah.
think even if you're, maybe especially if you're a contractor or a consultant, it's almost easier to pick a lane and stay in it because
Yeah.
you don't have to feed yourself in that case. If I just said I was a Google Ads expert and I work with this type of company, I could be busy all day long doing that. And I wouldn't have to worry about paying all those people on Monday and subscribing to services and all that stuff.
No, you're right. And I still like us to think that we're an agency because we have different people doing different things. But we are gonna also have to choose a battle. What is that we can do a good job? I like, even on SEO end, I've been practicing SEO since it was SEO, since the early days of Google and Yahoo. Yahoo was the major search engine. So I've been doing SEO since
Remember
then.
that?
Yeah, Yahoo and AltaVista and all those guys. And SEO is, if you have to say out of all the channels, what's your thing? It's SEO. But even on SEO, I'm realizing that I'm moving more toward consulting. We still do a lot of stuff. We write content, and if you have access to client website, we do technical stuff. But the type of clients we work with, some of them, we don't have access to the back end of the website. They have a different team. So we have to work with their team to implement some of the things. And some, depending on, it's difficult. It's hella difficult. And sometimes, like, creating a 404 page can take months because they have other priorities and things like that. I've noticed we're even on the SEO end, because of the type of clients we deal with, we're moving more toward consulting. Come up with this blog post that we want to write. They're like, okay, thank you. We can use your blog post as a guide. We need our writer to write it, and then their writer end up writing completely something different. And I'm like, okay, great. This is not what I wanted. And so I've noticed that even on SEO end, we're moving more on I want to say not fully consulting. There's still things we do that is like link building, writing meta tags, on page optimization. But there's a lot of things that we have to rely on client to do it. Like, for example, if you're not doing link building for them, we got to hope that their PR team is doing some of that. So
can I tell you a discussion I had
please.
with a prospect yesterday?
Yeah.
So we offer a productized service for Google Ads called Fast Launch. On that page, if you go to our website and look up Fast Launch, it tells you this is what we do.
Yeah.
We do this and this. This is what we don't do. This is how much it costs. I can only put how much it costs on there because we defined what we do and what we don't do.
Yeah.
So you run into a client who's not a good fit for that. And there are clients that aren't a good fit. This guy, I think, had more of a SaaS client. So I'm like, we could give you monthly recurring pricing for that, but you have to define with us what that thing is, because I can't give you monthly recurring pricing for an unknown.
Yeah.
You have to say, this is the service that I need optimized this many times, this many campaigns, this much budget. This is the type of report. If you're going to define it for me, then I can give you a price. This is like back in the software days. You used to be a software developer. Someone would be like, write me code. And I'm like, I can't write you code. What we can do is for $5,000, we can work together to come up with a statement of work and a plan. And then based on that, we can spend, who knows, maybe it's 25, maybe it's 50,000 to write you code. But we can't just write code, because you have to have a set of plans. It's just like build me a house. You have to have a set of plans. So Productizing Services does that. We can step out of that, but you have to give me specifics, and then I'm going to do those specifics. If you say, oh, by the way, we want these 3 other things, then that is the old out of scope, and that's scope creep, and we're not doing it. We have a solution for that. We offer an hourly option. If you don't know what you want, you can't define it, we'll do it. We'll do anything you want, but we're charging you by the hour, and literally every hour we work. Can we estimate? Yes, if it's basic stuff, we can estimate, but it's still an estimate. That's how we handle those things. Because when everything is one off, you can't. The number one problem with not productizing and not having that parameters with which you work is you can't scale it.
Yeah, scaling, I think, is really important, and not being everything to everybody, because then you end up just doing things that way outside your expertise and comfort zone. And that has been my core learning in 2024. We're trying to narrow down from industries.
Learning sucks, doesn't it? I'm tired of learning.
Yeah, that's a different conversation.
What was it? Someone told me yesterday. Anytime it was a learning. They went through some crap and it was a learning experience. They're like, I'd rather have just fewer of these learning experience. It builds character. That's what I said. And they're like, yeah, I need to stop building so much character, because every time you go through those little problems, you're like, you learn something, what not to do or what to do, but it's painful sometimes.
Yeah. I was actually, this is a little Friday meditation thinking. I was actually praying, and I'm like, God, I better go to heaven, because this tech shit has made me very humble. My friends, when I was a kid in elementary school. I was always a big kid, so I was always bullying kids, and I was like very, like my mom would say, I was very like confident and arrogant. And now I'm like quite opposite, because the more I learn, the more I know that I have to learn some more. Like right now, AI is changing the entire SEO. More you probably and now you gotta get on the AI bandwagon, and so learning, it never stops. Which I think you and I were talking about. Hey, let's just open a cafe somewhere in Florida.
I said that this morning on another call. I want to start selling hot dogs. I just want to sell hot dogs. At the end of the day, push my cart into the garage.
Yeah, I have a better idea. Coffee in the morning and wine in the afternoon. So just by the beach. But yeah, okay. So let's talk about hiring staff very quickly since we are running out of time.
Sure.
Where do you hire staff? Do you go just put a job out there? Do you go through referrals? Do you go on LinkedIn, Upwork? Where do
Our
you go?
most successful way has been to,
Upwork.
and we start someone part-time almost every time.
I like that idea. Yeah.
If they're going to fit in. And if they do, then they become part of the team over time. Rebecca, my operations person, always interviews people first because I like too many people.
Yeah, me
So,
too.
and she's like much more discerning than I am.
Yeah.
So she'll go because she just has that BS detector.
Yeah.
And so she'll do the first round. And typically, now we're at the point now where if she sends someone to talk to me, it's pretty much the
It's already
person that
vetted out. Yeah.
what she may do sometimes though is do the first round, and then they come to me if I have more technical expertise in that area. Because one of the hardest parts of hiring, I went through this with high level when we started using that, was not knowing the questions to ask so that you can determine, because there's a lot of marketing going on in this industry, people over marketing their skills and saying they can do things just to close the deal and just to get the job, and they can't. They watched a video.
Bro, those 23-year-old agency coaches that you were talking about, they keep hitting me up all the time. I'm like, you know what? Bro, you're like 23. There's no way you can be an agency coach.
I can get you.
I'm not trying to discriminate against age, but a lot of this knowledge comes through experience. There's no way, unless you've been working, unless your dad owned an agency, you've been working for an agency since you were 8 years old. Like, there's no way you can be a coach. To me, coaches, like football coaches, have played it before, and then they got older, retired, and now when a young kid comes and wants to be my coach, I'm like, okay. I've worked for many good agents.
Didn't you see their car on Facebook?
Yeah, the car.
A big house.
Cool. Okay, since we're running out of time, let's talk about, do you have any advice on if people want to get into the business, consulting your agency, besides don't do it? Any other advice?
I would say look carefully at what you want to do. Don't overthink it. Get some experience. Don't try to expect too much. Spend a year just doing some consulting, some marketing. One of the things I find with people who are like starting an agency is they're not really starting an agency. They're just thinking about starting an agency. And then it's good to have processes, but you can't spend all your time laying out the perfect plan because it's not going to work that way anyway. Get your feet dirty, get your hands dirty, do a little bit of work. If you want to own an agency, the easiest way to do it is to own the agency from the beginning, outsource to white label providers like ourselves. And that is self-serving, I know. But when you work with someone like me or some of the other people out there, they've got software, they've got a process, they've got a team, they've been through all this stuff. That saves you from, and you're not going to know Google ads anyway, and you're not going to know Facebook ads and all this stuff. Create your agency, create your niche, get a sales. The number one thing is selling and lead flow.
Yeah.
Focus 100% on that. Get some good white label partners. Build that way. That's how I would do it today. Like I would be a sales and marketing business that outsourced the work to people that knew what they were doing. It's really hard to grow a team.
Yeah.
People, and especially in multiple skill sets, because Google ads is not SEO, it's not Facebook ads, it's not web design.
Yeah.
It's not account management. You need a lot of different skills.
Good advice there. Okay, let's talk about the other project that you've been working on the Agency Finder.
Yeah, let's talk about that. We're going to try to solve that. I have an agency, but I can't get any leads problem. AgencyFinder.biz. We've just launched, and it's the largest agency, as far as I've been able to tell, in the U.S., specifically for marketing agencies. We've got over 9,000 agencies.
You meant largest agency directory.
Largest agency directory in the U.S. Yes. I don't know what crap I just said.
No, you left out the word directory. I was like, wow, that was the largest.
Yeah, it's got. Yeah. And then what we're building out on there, and I'm trying to partner up with, is some people in the industry who are experienced coaches who can help agencies grow. We want to get people on there, get their agencies on there, drive traffic there, allow people to get leads there, and help solve some of those lead generation problems. I'm also going to put a bunch of useful tools and content there. So get yourself listed right now, completely free, AgencyFinder.biz. And you can post on there, you can promote yourself, you can put your events, you can put coupons, all kinds of things. So get up there, AgencyFinder.biz. I should have said that more times.
Cool. I have a feature because I've been thinking about something like this for a long time, but I didn't want to go the director route. And I was teasing you when I said, hey, I have what is it? I said, I want equity if you do this, but you don't have to give me equity. But I think, having worked with many clients just like you, a lot of times they don't have time to look for agencies. So they just want to go and say, what is it they want? And they want agencies to bid on it. So maybe you can have a mechanism where clients go on your website and it's like, hey, I need an SEO guy. I need an SEM person who's local, who's this, who's that. As opposed to them looking for an agency, which is valuable, and I'm sure a lot of people would do. But a lot of times they might not have time or patience to look for agencies. You can have a little form where they can upload what they need, and then other agencies can bid. So that would be a good feature
That's a
to
great
have.
idea. And we're looking at things like how to help people understand. I've thought about doing that as just a one-time call.
Yeah.
Because people don't know what to look for in either an agency or a consultant. And that's why they end up so unhappy so many times. It's not because agencies are bad, but because they didn't match up well.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at potentially some sort of agency client matchmaking type of service.
Cool.
Because we don't work with the direct client. We're not after the direct client. We want you to have the client and then you to outsource the work to us. So yeah, we've been looking at that because I was talking to a coach about some of the biggest problems with agencies. We all know what the biggest problem is: getting clients.
Yeah, for sure. And also maintaining clients, and also client being happy with your work.
Maintaining clients. Yeah, that's the other side of it.
Yeah. Mark, I have a hard stop in 10 minutes, but I want to conclude this with asking you 3 personal questions. That's a new format. And number 1, when you're not when you're not working, being a professional, awesome Google Ads agency owner, what are you doing?
I am always 100% professional at all times. After this afternoon, I'm taking off early, and then I'm going to head out to the golf range.
Cool.
The golf range happens to have a bar, so I'm going to hit some balls first, and then have a little bourbon, go out to dinner. So when I'm not doing this, it's either out in nature, hitting golf balls, or hanging out with family and friends, ideally.
Cool. That was question 1. Question 2, any books or TV shows that you recommend to get your mind off of?
Right now is on Paramount. Mobland, Guy Ritchie show. I'm reading The 5 Principles of Leadership, something like that, by Patrick Bet-Davis. And I'm reading a book by the Restaurant Impossible guy, the chef that's Robert Irvine, because I haven't read anything leadership wise for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to a book on the American Revolutionary history. Just Audible is great for times when I don't really have the patience to read. I can just listen to it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I used to listen to Audible, but I actually prefer to read, but I'm a slow reader, especially when it comes to things like that. And now with a 6-year-old, it's very difficult. Okay, third question would be do you have any travel plans coming anytime soon? Could be domestic, could be international.
Plan in the early fall to go see family in Switzerland.
Cool.
Definitely, I'm going to check out different parts of Florida that I haven't been to. And I'm going to start attending some agency conferences. Now that we've got AgencyFinder.biz, it's going to behoove me to get out to more agencies.
I think you should have your own conference, dude.
I should have my own eventually. But I just want to get out to more conferences and rub elbows with more of the people. I know a lot of people through Facebook and we communicate a lot, but I want to meet more people one-on-one and get out to marketing agency conferences, as long as they're in good cities that I want to go to.
Cool. Awesome. Mark, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Al.
Have a nice weekend. Take care.
You too, brother.
Bye.